Hello and welcome to On Books. This is Chris here. This week, I have a very special guest for you. Bea Johnson is here on the show, and she's going to be talking about her book, Zero Waste Home, a book which has launched a global movement around the zero waste lifestyle. Zero waste means putting less needless trash back into the world and thinking about ways that we can simplify and refuse some of the trash that comes into our lives. So zero waste, she is able with her family to make literally zero waste in a year, not producing any trash. And she's going to share some of those tips and tricks and things that she's learned along the way because, well, I'm interested in learning how I can adopt that. And I've read the book. In the last episode, I gave a summary of Zero Waste Home. And you can go back and check that out if you'd like. You don't need to check that out to understand this interview, but you can if you want. But after reading that, I still found myself getting tripped up and feeling kind of stopped in life, and especially when going out into the world, when people hand me receipts or coffee cups and having to make these decisions. So I share that with her, and she's going to give me some feedback on that. And it was really great having her on the show. She was so fun and conversational. So I know you're going to enjoy this one. So during this conversation, we're going to address the question, what is zero waste? We're going to talk about how to reduce waste from, like I said, coffee cups and giving presents to friends. How about all those Amazon Prime boxes that show up at my company's doorstep every day? What do we do with those? We'll also talk about the easiest way to find bulk shops near you. And now bulk, that's not like Costco bulk, but it's the kind of bulk where you can get something and it comes without packaging. There's a bunch of those in New York City, and maybe there's a few where you live, and she has some tips and tricks and an app to help you with that. And we'll also talk about where to get some of the supplies that are mentioned in the book. Because after reading the book, I wasn't totally sure. I was like, I could get the mesh bags. Where do I get started? And she has some really good answers in a list that she put together that she's going to share with us. So all of that and a lot more. I am super excited for this topic and for Bea and to share it with you. So here we go. This is Bea Johnson and Zero Waste Home. Yeah, I came across this book and I saw the title because I was reading. Have you heard of the book Ecological Intelligence by Daniel Goleman?
No.
Yeah, I was.
Right.
No, it's cool. It was. It got me excited. I was wondering how I could make less of a mess with the things that I buy. And somewhere in some blog, when I was reading about this book, your book's the name came up, and it just shouted out at me, and I was like, "That's exactly what I'm looking for."
Yeah, the title sounds scary, doesn't it?
It sounds scary. Yeah. That's why I'm curious to learn more about you and what zero waste means. Can you explain? What is zero waste? What does zero waste mean?
Well, zero waste aims, at least the zero waste lifestyle aims at eliminating a maximum of solid waste from your life as possible. But this translates into an actual, a better life, a quality of life that is improved. So we can talk more about that, but it's really simply about trying to eliminate waste as much as possible in your household.
And what kind of waste do you think? Are there some key culprits that you think are the main kinds of waste that we're producing?
Well, waste comes from lots of different areas, and it's not just the solid waste also that, we'll be producing, but it's also, there is a lot of waste that is produced down the road or along the manufacturing chain. Then there is also, lots of different aspects of waste because it can be solid, but it can also be, you have water waste, you have energy waste, you have, even I count even time as something that I don't want to waste. And this, it seems that the zero waste lifestyle really takes care of it all, at least for us. We found that this life is, has translated into a better life because we've discovered that we've discovered great financial savings, time savings, but especially a life based on experiences instead of things. Once you start letting go of wasteful consumption, then all of a sudden you actually find you can really enjoy the advantages of the zero waste lifestyle and discover a better life.
So when we're talking about zero waste, like I'm trying to relate to how I could make my life less waste, right? What is one of the biggest objections that people bring up when you say, "Hey, you could be producing less waste"? Like what's the major objection?
Well, I don't tell anyone how to live their lives. I've never gone out there and say you should be living the way we do. I've never ever done that. We are not here to dictate or tell anyone how to live their lives. We're only here to talk about our experience, how we live ours. And if it inspires people, great. If it doesn't, too bad. But the biggest criticism that we've received through the media outlets that we've been in are people tend to think that the zero waste lifestyle is more costly. They tend to think that it takes more time. And people also think that you have to be a granola or you have to be a hippie in order to live this lifestyle. And we've proven the contrary on all these aspects.
How is it possible that you could save money by having zero waste? Because it seems like you have to figure out all these alternative ways to buy things now.
Yeah, so actually the zero waste lifestyle is as simple as following 5 rules in order. It's about refusing the things that we do not need, reducing the things that we do need, reusing by swapping anything that's disposable for a reusable alternative, and buying secondhand when we do need to buy something. Then recycling only what we cannot refuse, reduce, or reuse. And finally, we rot, which is compost, the rest. Now, when I started doing all this, my husband was really worried because we were in the midst of the recession. And he said, I can see you're grocery shopping at the health food store. You're going to the farmer's market, which have a reputation of costing more. And people were saying the same thing on my blog. They said, it's too expensive. I'm sure it's too expensive. So I encouraged my husband to compare our bank statements between the zero waste lifestyle and the lifestyle before zero waste. And that's when he discovered that we were saving 40% on our overall budget. This 40% is based on the fact that, one, we consume way, way, way less than before. Today, we're happy with the amount of things that we have in our home. We just have a minimum of things. And if we buy something, it's only to replace something that needs to be replaced because we're happy with our inventory. But if we buy something to replace something else, a shoe that has a hole in it, or I should say a tennis shoe that has a hole in it, or a t-shirt that is too small, then we buy it secondhand. So, which by definition costs less. But we also buy our food in bulk. Did you know that when you buy a product that is packaged, 15% of the price covers the cost of the packaging?
No.
So when you buy in bulk, you make an automatic 15% savings, and yes, even at the health food store. And finally, we've replaced anything that's disposable in our home for a reusable alternative. So anything that's disposable, such as paper towels, have been replaced with rags, tissues, paper tissues with handkerchiefs, and we've done basically this for anything that's disposable in our home. Now, when we used to buy things that were throwaways, it was literally throwing our money away, because when you buy something that is single use, you literally buy something which you can use for just a few seconds and then you throw it out. So it's literally throwing your money away. When you replace all these products for a reusable alternative, it translates into cumulative savings over time. These savings have even allowed us to install solar on our roof and install a gray water system, which reuses the water from the shower and the washing machines to irrigate the land. So it's translated into great savings for us.
Wow. So everything you're saying makes sense. And I went ahead and read the book, and I also watched your Google Talk, which I thought was helpful because you got to show some slides and images of your home, which is really helpful. And with all,
yes,
no, I think it's really helpful to see. I think to anyone that's reading the book or listening right now, it's also really helpful to kind of see the examples because that crystallized images in my head. With all that though, I still feel I have an anxiety about, well, what can I be doing? I know you offer some consultation work. Is that true? And what kind of advice do you give people when you start that work?
Well, I actually do not give home consultations anymore because I feel that my time is better invested speaking to large audiences. So today I'm invited actually to talk about my lifestyle all over the world, whether it's in Brazil, New Zealand, or Quebec, or, Europe. And I'm happy to do that because it allows me to touch a different audience than that I've been able to touch with my book or my blog, or even the YouTube videos. But it allows me to touch even a wider audience. And so, however, the first step that I give to people who want to reduce their waste is to simply follow the 5 rules in order. And if you, like I mentioned, the first rule is to refuse what we do not need. What that means is to simply think twice about accepting anything that is handed out to us. To simply learn how to say no. It's as simple as that. Because today, in this consumerist society, we're the targets of many promotional goods. But every time we accept them, we're creating a demand to make more. And then once we bring them into our home, then they not only clutter our space, but also then become our waste problem. So when we say no to these things, when we say no to free plastic bags, free pens, a pen from a conference, for example, or samples, or shampoo bottles in a hotel, junk mail, business cards. There's lots of examples around that. But simply when we say no to these things, we stop the demand. It's the first step to do in a zero waste lifestyle is to simply learn how to say no.
Can you tell me about a time recently, like this week, where you refused something and what that conversation was like?
Well, for me, it's so automatic that I don't even think about it anymore. So, this week I flew back from Europe. So on the plane, they tried to give me a meal, snacks, drinks, and all that. I say no to all those things. To me, when I say no to a meal on the plane, I know that the meal has been created, but, they create more than they actually need. And by saying no, I'm creating a demand for an alternative. If everyone said no to the packaged meal, then we'd be creating a demand for a non-packaged meal. They have a meal for special diets. They have a vegan meal, a carb-free meal, a vegetarian meal. I'm hoping that one day we'll see a zero-waste meal. When I enter the plane, I also always have with me, I'll bring in a sandwich, for example, which I've wrapped in a cloth bag. And then I have with me a thermos, which I can then ask the flight attendant to fill with a drink. And I simply say no to the snacks that they tried to give me or the disposable cup that they tried to give me, and I just use what I have with me to get a refreshment.
Yeah, I mean, and so that's amazing, first off, and inspiring. And I would worry, because I think one of my things that I'm committed to being a vegetarian, and that's something that I believe is also making a difference in a vote with my dollar, the way it correlates,
Yes.
to the planet, and improving the planet.
Yes.
And sometimes I wonder if my actions, sometimes it feels a little bit like like, is anybody, like, does it make a difference that I get a vegetarian meal on a plane? Like, I believe it does, and I stick with that. But there's the other side of the coin when it just gets like really like and frustrating. Do you feel that way sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, simply saying no to a meal on the plane is not going to change much. What's important is what comes after. It's important to send an email or send letters to the airlines and simply say why you refuse that meal. Same for when I refuse junk mail. I explain why I'm refusing that. Actually, I just, right before I took this call, I went to my mailbox and I saw that I had one piece of junk mail.
Mm-hmm.
We have eradicated junk mail. We no longer receive any, only for the one occasional one. So, in this case, if you simply throw your junk mail if you take your junk mail from your mailbox and put it in your recycling can, it's a way for you to say, I love junk mail, please send me more. And more will be sent out to us. So we've taken steps which I describe in the book to eliminate junk mail, but sometimes we get one here and there. And it's actually quite rare. But today, instead of simply putting it in the recycling, I contacted the company and I said, please take me off your mailing list. And it's also important to say, and do not share my information, do not sell, trade, rent my information. If you don't say that, they will.
It's amazing.
But I don't, I'm so used to doing the things that we do. I mean, we've embarked on the zero waste lifestyle 10 years ago. So what we do is completely normal. It's part of our habit. It's really not hard for me to say no to something, and there are tricks on how to say no in this consumerist society. We've learned little ways of saying no. My son, my youngest son, the teenager, simply says, no, thanks, I'm good. Or no, I'm good. And that works for him every time. So when he goes to the orthodontist, for example, and they try to give him a little toy or whatever, says, no, I'm good, thanks. And that works. People can, respect your choice. And if they don't, you can just go a little further by saying, no, thank you, I simplified my life, or no, thank you, I just have what I need, or, there are just really simple ways of getting out of those freebies.
That's amazing. You mentioned recycling as being lower down in the chain. So there's refuse, at the outside world, refusing what comes into your life, reducing, reusing things that you already have, and then recycling's far down in the chain. Why doesn't recycling work? Because I feel like that's what we're told. It's just like, if you recycle, it's good enough.
Yeah, so, the 5 R's that I mentioned are basically, my system, my methodology of the 5 R's are based on the 3 R's that we've heard about for a long time: reduce, reuse, recycle. Mm-hmm. But it's along the line, as I was, using these R's, that I quickly realized that in our society, we've been pushed to recycle more, but we haven't been really pushed to reduce in the first place and reuse more. And I think it's the order of the R's that's extremely important to reduce waste. When we reduce and we reuse, then we eliminate recycling. Today, my family, for example, recycles way, way, way less than it did before. Because the zero waste lifestyle is not about recycling more, it's about recycling less, thanks to waste prevention in the first place, which is done through reducing and reusing. Now, there is a lot of problem around recycling, and preventing waste actually addresses those problems. So The problem with recycling is that when you put something on your curb, you don't know for sure what's going to truly happen to those materials.
Mm-hmm.
There are very, very few plastics that have the chance of being recycled, and the few that are being recycled are turned into a product that is no longer recyclable. So when they, for example, turn your plastic bottle into synthetic decking or a synthetic park bench, then that park bench and that decking will no longer be recyclable. So we really consider, plastic materials as something that was really designed for the landfill. And that's why we try to avoid it at all costs.
Oh, wait, so
when we're reusing... Yes?
Are you saying that things can only be recycled one time? Like a plastic bottle can become something, but then that something can't be recycled again?
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's very rare because they have to add, the plastic on its own is not, they have to add other materials to it, and then those materials then make that item no longer recyclable. It is very rare that plastic is recycled more than twice. And again, it's, only very few plastics that have the chance of being recycled. Number 1, number 2, maybe number 5, but the others are not. And also the problem is when we buy plastic materials, we are supporting a non-sustainable practice. Plastic materials are not only toxic to our health when they're being manufactured, because they actually release toxins in the air when they're being manufactured, but they are also toxic to our health when we use them. A lot of the plastics, not only off gas, you can smell it when you go into a big department store, the big plastic smell, or in a big store, I don't know, like Walmart or IKEA or any of those stores, there is a strong plastic smell, or that, the plastic off-gassing, and that's been linked to a lot of health problems. But there are also plastics that transfer into our food. And we found more and more, we've heard a lot about BPA, which in the body acts as a female hormone, and it's had even an impact on the size of penises in a young, in boys being born. I think it's totally crazy. But and personally, if I go to someone's party and there is a platter of cheese, and I happen to take the piece of cheese that was against or packaged against the wrapper, I can taste the plastic.
No.
Because I have rediscovered a true sense of taste with this lifestyle, because I buy my food in bulk, and my food is not in direct contact with plastics, or much less. And if I go, to a party and there is cheese, I can taste the plastic if it was against the wrapper. There is a very quick transfer, especially between plastics like a saran wrap type plastic to fatty foods, because it's an unstable plastic and it transfers into the food very quickly. The worst, I think, is on brie. On brie, I can really taste it.
Oh, my God.
But if I can taste it, it obviously means that it's transferred into the food. And that cuts my appetite right away.
Yeah, that's cool that you've, in a way, given yourself this kind of reaction, like you're biologically, because like, if you can't sense it, like a lot of things are invisible for most of us, then it's really easy to like psychologically go, oh, well, it's not, there's no reason to stop doing something because I can't see it, or I can't feel it, or it has no harmful effect. But that's... Yeah,
it's in a way we've been desensitized. Yes. It's just like, I think people that also shop in a lot of those stores that off-gas, they don't smell it anymore. But when you stop for a while and then you go back in, it's kind of like leaving your house for a while. When you come back in,
you smell,
you smell the true smell of your house.
I know.
And it's the same for me, like with those big stores. I don't shop in them anymore. But if I have to go into one, with my mother-in-law or I don't know my mother, then it's really a shock to me. I can hardly stand it.
Oh my God. Are there restaurants? Because like, of course, there's organic restaurants and like vegan restaurants and different causes. Are there restaurants that are zero waste restaurants coming on the scene? Because that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, there are a few zero waste restaurants. There is a Silo in the UK. There is also a sandwich store in Chicago.
Huh.
That actually emerged after the owner saw the article about us in People magazine.
Oh,
it's seeing the zero waste lifestyle or seeing the term zero waste kind of strike a chord for him, and he decided to then turn his sandwich restaurant into a zero waste practice.
wow. There's a few other bulk stores I noticed that seem to be inspired by you and the zero waste book. Can you tell me a little bit?
Lot of them.
A lot of them, huh? Tell me, what's that?
I think it's I receive about 5 emails a week from people somewhere around the world that have been inspired by the book or the blog or an article about us to open a waste-free, package-free stores. For example, the first packaged bulk store that opened in Germany was inspired by my book. This woman, it's a French woman that, after reading the book, decided that she wanted to start offering bulk options, bulk products to the German public. And then in her turn, she was able to inspire the opening of lots of other stores. So it's kind of create like a whole little chain over there. And then same in France. In France, I think it is where bulk stores are popping up faster than anywhere else in the world. My book has really created quite a movement over there, and people, I think, already have a great appreciation for the simple pleasures and kind of going back to the way we used to shop. In a way, it's a bit nostalgic.
Of like a marketplace.
It's much prettier. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of these stores are popping up, and I've gone through quite a few inaugurations, and it's every time a true honor for me. I also last weekend I was I went to one that also was inspired by the book in Lisbon, Portugal. And again, it was fantastic to meet the owner, and right away there is a connection there.
This is amazing. Is there a place that people can go, either on your blog or somewhere, where there's like a list of all these? Because I feel like that would be helpful for the,
Yes. So what happened was, in 2011, I was already speaking about my lifestyle all over the world, and everywhere I went, people said, "We can do zero waste. We don't have bulk." And I told them, bulk is everywhere. You just need to have a vision for it. When you adopt a zero waste lifestyle, you acquire a vision for bulk. If I enter a regular store, I no longer see packaging. I only see what's available to me without packaging, which is pretty much the perimeter of the store. That's where you have the bread bins, the fish, meat, deli, cheese, produce, and maybe bulk, and also you have coffee also. Anyways, but during that time is when I realized that there was a need to for an app that would tell us where all the bulk is everywhere.
Yes.
Which is why I participated into I won a grand prize in 2011, which allowed me to create an app, and it's called Bulk, and now it's available. It's a web app that's available on my via my blog, zerowastehome.com, and you can see there is a little tab app, and that's the app that allows you to find bulk locations near you. 10,000 users in 31 different countries. I've entered 3,000 locations. There is 400 locations in France alone.
Amazing.
But it's a great tool that I use for when I travel. I obviously know where the bulk is where I live, but when I travel, that's where I need to know where to shop.
That's amazing. That was a great answer to my question, like the perfect one. I'll put a link to that at the site, our site on-books.com. I'll put a link to that, anybody listening. And I think the other thing, so the other side of the bulk, so bulk is like one step for sure, and it's a big way, I think, to reduce the amount of waste that you're pulling because you're not taking as much plastic home, et cetera, et cetera. What about...
Exactly. Zero waste is actually more what you do outside the house than what you do inside your home. It's the person that consumes that has the power to, one, not consume, or two, consume differently by buying in bulk or buying secondhand when they do need to buy something.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest takeaways, just the whole concept of refusing. And so a problem that I had kind of after reading the book, I wouldn't say like a problem, but like kind of where I'm at right now is you also mentioned a few different ways that I can bulk shop, such as getting like cloth bags, mesh bags, jars, and stuff like that. I mean, I'm busy, everybody's busy, you know, and it's kind of like, okay, now I have to go search for these things. Is there a blog post or a kit or something where you can just like, and of course we don't want to like buy more stuff, but like if these are the essentials, is there one place to buy them?
Yeah. I'm sure you already have actually a lot of the things you need.
What do you think?
Probably what you're missing is the cloth bags, but anyhow, to make things easier for people, I have created a store on my blog, and that has all the products that we use in our home to live a zero waste lifestyle. So there is it's by section or by rooms. So there is a section for, it's actually the landing page is for to build a shopping kit. Now, you don't need, that many things.
Mm-hmm,
so you don't need 100 different reusable bags. In my family, for example, we found that we just needed 3 reusable totes. We don't have like 20 of them. We just have 3. Then we have, there is 5 jars that we bring to the store automatically for our family of 4. For environmental reasons, we have reduced our meat, our animal consumption. So for each week, we bring 1 jar for meat, 1 for cheese, 1 for deli, 1 for grated cheese, and 1 for meat, fish, deli, cheese, grated cheese. Yeah, well, anyways, 5. And so we also bring cloth bags for anything that's dry in the store, flour, sugar, cereal, salt. And then we have mesh bags for produce. But you could also use the cloth bags for your produce.
Okay, that's amazing. I had a few things that after reading the book, I've noticed myself taking, not refusing, and I'm just going to rapid fire a few things and thought maybe you can just give me like a quick, maybe 1 sentence, what you would do in these situations.
Yes.
Okay, ready? So this morning, coffee at a cafe, they only had to-go cups. What do I do?
Well, you might think that they only have to-go cups, but in this case, it's actually important to ask because they might actually have reusable cups. Starbucks, for example, a lot of people don't know this, but Starbucks has reusable cups. So you could actually, when you go, you simply ask, can I have it in a reusable cup? Often, they don't know where their reusable cups are, but they all have them. And, even in Tokyo, we went to Starbucks when we were waiting for my speech at Google over there. They only had a Starbucks. I would have picked another restaurant otherwise, but and I asked for coffee in my cup, and they had a reusable one. But in that case, it's also very important to be proactive. I don't go anywhere without my thermos, and I don't carry anything else, but I have my thermos.
Thermos.
And that's what I use to refill water with water at the fountain in airports, or to get my coffee or my tea. That's really that, and my handkerchief is what I carry with me everywhere. But that's an easy one to tackle if you're prepared.
Okay, great. So I buy the coffee this morning, and then they hand me a receipt. What do I do? Do I take the receipt?
I say no to the receipt. I know the receipt has been created.
That's the problem.
But accepting is condoning. Okay. Every time we accept something, it's a way for us to create a demand to make more. So even though the receipt has been created, if you take it, it's a way for you to say, it's okay for you to keep giving me a receipt. And more receipts will be created. When you say no, if everyone said no, well, they will have to stop doing that. And that's why a lot of places have actually gone to no receipt, where they ask you if you want a receipt, and if you do want one, they send you an electronic one.
I've noticed that here in New York City, a lot of places are doing that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
What about presents for a friend?
So in our home, we do not give the gift of stuff, because we want to give a gift that we'd like to receive. And since we're happy with the amount of things that we have, all we really care about is more experiences in our life. So we'll give an experience instead of things. If you don't know what kind of experience, then you can simply, of course, base yourself on the type of person you're going to give the gift to, their likings, but also you can look simply at a Groupon app, for example, to kind of give or get some ideas on the types of activities that are available near you.
That's really nice. I like that reframing. That's really nice. And finally, I have a company here in New York City, and we're often ordering things for the office, and every day Amazon Prime boxes show up at the door. How do we deal with that? Do we stop using Amazon, or is it something we just recycle the boxes? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know I haven't used Amazon Prime.
Got it.
But I've used Amazon in the past, and I have to say, sometimes I've been really surprised to see that nothing, there was no packaging in it. It was just a box. I mean, I probably order on Amazon once every 2 years. Mm-hmm. I did actually about 6 months ago to buy something that was secondhand, that I could not find secondhand elsewhere, not even on eBay. But I was actually happy with the box. I didn't have a problem. Now, of course, it's important to choose the shipment that you agree with. So if you are going to if you're going to call your company a zero-waste company, then you have to be more mindful about your suppliers and, how it's going to package. And then you can actually request for better packaging. But that's a conversation you need to have with your suppliers.
Yeah, it's beautiful to think that there's ways that people who are entrepreneurs can benefit from. I mean, you've listed so many during this episode of people who are making bulk stores or zero waste restaurants. Are there any other companies that you haven't mentioned, maybe tech startups or anything exciting that you think's coming out that people should pay attention to?
Well, there is a lot of things around the zero waste realm. I mean, a lot of stores, indeed. There is also a lot of companies that are creating reusables. For feminine, as far as feminine products are concerned, I don't use tampons, for example. I only use a menstrual cup, and there are more and more companies that have kind of gone into that, offering different types of reusable products. So some of them might be, for reusable thermoses, but some are doing the cloth bags. Other people are doing those reusable feminine products, or cotton rounds, which is just that's to eliminate the cotton rounds or cotton pads that women use to remove makeup. Companies are making round reusable pads. You simply throw them in the wash. And but there are also a lot of organizations that have kind of emerged from this. And there is, for example, this group with whom I met that are bringing the reusable diapers and the reusable menstrual kind of products in areas that where people can't really afford them. And reteaching them in a way how to use them, and then even providing a kit for them, which I think is fabulous. There are a lot of organizations that are doing that for the reusable menstruating products for countries that where periods are a taboo and where people can't really or have trouble affording these products. Nice. I'm also the mentor of a group of 4 guys that are going to do a sailing trip around the world, zero waste.
Oh.
So I'm kind of mentoring them on how to do that. And otherwise, there are also organizations in different countries that have emerged also from the book. For example, Zero Waste Switzerland, which is an organization that facilitates zero waste for companies. They can consult them and give them pointers on how to do that. And
that's cool.
There is lots of different things that are happening.
That's amazing. Are there any things that you've thought up or you wish people would start a company for? You're like, man, I wish nobody's doing that yet. This one idea that you wish.
Well, what I wish, where I wish there was a lot of energy spent is on reducing the carbon footprint of flying, because I'm not ready to stop flying. It's, I think we're a global community now, and I personally cannot tell my family that for zero waste reasons I will never see them again and never say to friends. So I want to keep on taking the planes. And when I fly, I make sure that, it is that I maximize my, that I really use my carbon footprint very wisely. For example, when I went to Europe, just recently, it was to give 30 speeches in 10 different countries. And all of this emerged out of 2 family events that I had to go to. But when I go somewhere, I want to make sure that I have a positive impact. And then these speeches and all the media that was attracted by these speeches then have a positive impact down the road. But that said, I really wish that there was a more environmental way of going from one country to another, and that's really where I hope that there will be more. The technology will be more developed.
Well, what about? I'm in New York City here. What if there was classes in New York City? Because that's just something I would love, and I could go maybe once, maybe a few times a month, and it keeps accountability on me. And I got to learn these things with somebody. Then you wouldn't have to do it. Have you ever thought of something like that?
Yes, some people have created more like Facebook kind of groups, zero waste Facebook groups, a little bit everywhere, and they're based on the book, where it's kind of a support group where they discuss where they're at, and then they kind of implement it at different levels. But everyone is different, so everyone will apply zero waste in different ways through their lives. For some people, decluttering might be the hardest. For other people, it might be adopting reusables. Or for guys, it's letting go of the paper towels.
Yes. This is a great TED Talk, which I'm sure you've seen, the paper towel TED Talk.
Oh, really?
Oh, you never saw it?
No.
I
got to.
It's a 3-minute, this guy, and he's hilarious. He has this really funny, 3 steps kind of to how to reduce paper towels. So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that's great.
I'll send it to you. Check it out. Cool. my final question would just be, are there any books aside from your book that you would suggest that people read to get excited or inspired on this topic?
Yeah, so the books that I read that really changed my vision are Death by Rubber Duck. I think it was a fantastic book that it's probably the one that had the most impact on me, kind of to show you what kind of explains through a human experiment that they did how all the products that surround us have an impact on our health. And it's once you know these things, then it's really hard to ignore them, and it's really hard to go on using the toxic products that you used before. And people actually also often ask me, well, what should I do with the toxic products? Because once I read that book, then there was no way I was going to keep on using my cleaning sprays, knowing that I was poisoning my family. Now, I could have taken it to a dangerous materials disposal kind of place, but some people are still buying them. So in that case, I feel that, well, if I don't give it away, if they don't have access to mine, they'll go buy a new one anyways. So in that case, I give mine away, and you can put them, for free on your curb. And but nice. it's a very complicated kind of subject, on what to do with those things. But if people are still going to buy them, knowing that they're toxic, then what can you do about it? At least they can reuse yours.
Well, one good light in that aspect is that if you go to Whole Foods, for example, and a bunch of other stores, they're putting these labels, and they'll tell you how much toxicity or harm. I'm sure you've seen these. Goodguide.com. Have you seen this? There's these these different ways, and I mean, my hope is that by sharing more, because there's just a lack of information, basically. Like, the consumer doesn't have the information that they need to even make these decisions. We know the ingredients a lot of times, but if something like triclosan, or like, we don't even know what that is, we just kind of read, and that's so much burden. But I think there is exactly, and the problem is, the marketers
their job is to make you buy their product regardless on how toxic it is. They just want to fill their pockets. So they're, of course, not going to tell you how toxic it is and what the effect it's going to have on your health. So then it's up to us. I mean, we're basically guinea pigs, and it's up to us to figure out, the impact that it has on our health, which is why a lot of people have been drawn to the zero-waste lifestyle for the health aspect. A lot of people, for example, had someone in their family that became sick with cancer, and then they started looking at the causes of cancer, and then found that it was the products that surround us, the products that we use, and then in trying to find solutions, they find, my book or the blog, they find the zero-waste lifestyle, and they found that lifestyle answers or gives them a solution to all these problems. And so I personally no longer have to worry about the effect of plastics on my food, because I don't buy packaged food. Yeah. I no longer have to worry about toxic products on my skin. I only put on my skin things that I can eat. I use cacao powder on my cheeks, for example, to give it color. And to clean the house, we use white vinegar and Castile soap, which are two natural products. We don't have to worry about the effects that they have on our health.
That's amazing.
So that's where the zero-waste lifestyle really eliminates all these worries. There is no more research to be done. It's simple. It's clean. It's natural. It's trustworthy.
I love it. And anyone who's listening, the things that Bea is mentioning, all of those are in the book, outlined how you can make them for yourself, as well as, I would want to say, hundreds of other recipes. I kind of think of this book as like an encyclopedia, or like good to have it around for when
people call it the Bible.
Or the Bible.
The Bible of waste-free living. But yeah, though I want to make the point that we actually make very few things people tend to think that if I live this lifestyle, I probably don't have a job and spend my days making things. It's not the case at all. I have a full-time job. I have a very busy schedule, and I only make what I cannot find in bulk. I have learned to embrace what is available to us in bulk. So in the end, the only things I really make from scratch are tomato cans. I can tomato sauce once a year in the end of the summer. And I make my own cosmetics. I make my own mascara, my own eyeliner. But even those things are just made from just a couple of ingredients or just one ingredient. So there is no making involved. The recipes, the few recipes that I propose in the book are actually very simple and made from things you already have in your pantry.
That's awesome. So a final thought, where can people go? They could buy the book and your website. What's the website?
Well, the book is available, it's available on Amazon, it's available at Barnes & Noble, it's available, in the big bookstores, and then you have the link on my website, zerowastehome.com, and I'm also, of course, on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, under the same name, Zero Waste Home, and I'm enjoying sharing little bits of our lifestyle through social media and any upcoming news.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Bea, for hanging out and chatting. This was great.
Well, thanks so much for giving me the time.
Yeah, it was so fun. All right, I really want to thank Bea for coming on the show. Like she said, you can learn more about her book and the movement of zero waste at zerowastehome.com. For any of the show notes or things that we mentioned, I'll put those on the On Books site. You can find those at on-books.com. If you have any questions for me, you can send me an email. Yeah, I'm at chris@on-books.com, just like that. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know how you enjoyed this episode, some books that you might want me to think about, especially related to social good, sustainability, and nutrition. These are some of the topics that we'll be hitting a lot between now and the end of the year. So reach out, excited to see what you're thinking. Again, I really appreciate you listening. I really enjoy doing this every week. And if you enjoy the show as well, iTunes. You can subscribe. It really helps me out by just connecting and getting those out to you every week. iTunes makes that possible, so it's free on iTunes. And that's really all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed another episode of On Books, and I'll see you next week.